So NSPEERT, thanks for your response in regards to pan-experientialism. Um, I hesitate to call it a belief, though. It's more of a metaphysical system because implicit in this idea that the knowledge we have of the world is based on belief is, as you said, a representational understanding of the mind. That basically a belief is a representation of the state of affairs in the world. Um, I think we can imagine other possible um, ways that what we call the mind and what we call the world can be in relation to one another. Pan-experientialism is one such way, where the mind isn't representing the world, rather, um, the body is itself a process embedded in the world among other entities which are also processes. And as a process, the body is related both externally and internally to these other entities, these other bodies. An external relation between bodies would be, um, when I take this pen and I hit it against this chapstick, um, you know, they have surfaces which causally influence one another and exchange energy. An internal relation between two entities would be when I speak and you understand the meaning of the words, or when you empathize with me. Um, this is an internal relation between entities, and both of these are components of our experience. Both of them are required for us to experience at all. Um, and so, from a pan-experientialist point of view, causality in terms of the external relationships between things and the way they exchange forces is not the only type of causality. Instead of there just being cause and effect, there's also cause and effect. You know, not just EFFECT, but AFFECT. Um, and so when my body feels the world, it's not only responding to a mechanical cause, but an emotional cause. And I'm able to feel the world and understand it because I relate to it experientially from the inside out. I mean, there's also an outside in relation, but the outside in and the inside out relations are present and codependent on one another. So again, there's external relations and internal relations between all entities from the pan-experientialist point of view. A standard materialistic point of view would say there are only external relations between things, that there is no interior to any material object, whether it be an atom or a cell, a bacterium, or an animal, or a human being. Though, of course, this is where it gets tricky. The materialist has to somehow explain how it is that we have conscious experience as human beings. Some materialists argue that it's because of the complexity of the brain that this illusion of awareness and sentience is produced. But I think that's a problem, a very fundamental problem that the materialist ontology doesn't really solve, if it even attempts to solve it at all. It sort of just covers over it and ignores it in favor of this very simplistic, materialistic understanding of reality where things are only related externally. But I think if we bracket the abstractions that materialistic science has replaced our experience of nature with and return again to our concrete experience, we can see that empathy is a real phenomenon. It's when I experience your happiness or your sadness, it's not that I am identical with your mental state. It's that I can relate to it because we are internally connected in some way. And again, it's not that I become identical. It's that I can relate. I can create in myself, due to our similar internal biological structure, a similar internal mental experience. You know, the neuroscientists talk about mirror neurons, which do exactly this. So, you know, we should also differentiate between pan-experientialism and the idea that I've talked about in some of my videos, that basically each of our minds are like a thought in a larger person's mind. That's not really what pan-experientialism is saying. Pan-experientialism is not saying that there is one mind. It's saying that every entity has its own type of phenomenological experience. I mean, the words that we use to refer to experience are, you know, are many. There's experience, awareness, consciousness, mind, sentience, feeling, sensation, and so forth. I think there's a hierarchy here where, say, an atom has access to the very bare minimum amount of experience, where, let's say, all that it experiences is a gravitational gradient in the curvature of space-time. Cells experience you know, the slightest bit of agitation and hunger because they can move about an environment if they have you know, some kind of you know, locomotive abilities. You know, multicellular creatures start to develop nervous systems, and they can learn and remember certain behaviors. They can intend things, and as you get up the chain of natural beings, and you arrive at complex mammals, there's the ability to manipulate symbols, and slowly but surely, the bare minimum of experience present in atoms complexifies until you've actually got this intelligent, self-conscious being like the human being. Now, when we understand this great chain of being, we could call it, in this way, we see that there's a continuum from the smallest entity, the least complex entity, to the larger, more complex entities. And certainly, the size of the entity isn't really what matters. I don't think, you know, a universe, though it is very complexly organized, is as conscious or aware as a human being, because you know, it's not that simple. It's not that the degree of consciousness is only dependent on the size. That's one of the variables. The other variable is the degree of differentiated complexity in the structure itself. You know, there are more synaptic connections in the brain than there are stars in the known universe. So, but to get back to belief, I think, you know, if we're going to use belief as the basis for which we choose what type of worldview we're going to take, we've got to question materialism just as much as any other metaphysical belief system. And it was my questioning of materialism that led me to pan-experientialism, because I think materialism has a hard time accounting for the presence of experience in nature, the presence of the interiors of natural beings. And we have at least one example ourselves, and I'm prepared to extend my own experience to other beings, at least other human beings, but even more than other human beings, to all other beings. If a thing can be distinguished as, you know, a complexly organized entity that somehow distinguishes between self and other, there's some kind of boundary or membrane around it, I think it has some sort of interior experience. So, is pan-experientialism more emotionally fulfilling than materialism? I would say, yeah. But that's not what motivated me to adopt it as part of my, you know, basic understanding of the universe. It was certainly a consequence of this worldview that I like, but it wasn't what motivated it. What motivated it was a sincere desire to understand nature. And yeah, I'll leave it at that to keep this video under 10 minutes, and look forward to continuing the correspondence. Take it easy.